If you're like me, you've been enjoying the first few episodes of the Acolyte, and episode 3 showed us the story behind May's reason to seek revenge against the 4 Jedi that were on Brendok during that unfortunate night. May believes that the Jedi destroyed her coven, but we were shown that Osha was attacked. Now we know the truth, and that's that. So thanks for watching. Well, wait, is it just me or does something feel off? Like we didn't get the whole story. There are still some pretty big questions that we need answering if this were the real story of what happened that night. There are likely 3 versions of what we saw, the Jedi's version, Osha's version, and May's version. So let's try to piece them all together to create the full story of what happened. We can start with Master Torben. If the fire was the real reason why the coven was destroyed, what reason would Torben have to take the Barash vow? He and the other Jedi had to have been involved in some aspect if Torben was to feel the need to voluntarily stop taking actions on behalf of the Order. Not only that, but Torben's final words were,
"Forgive me. I thought we were doing the right thing."
With all of this in mind, the Jedi, or at least Torben, have to have some level of involvement with what happened on Brendok. Oh, what is that? Torben's scar? Was it always there? It's quite odd that it would show up after the fire that seemingly killed the coven. I think we need to look even deeper. Our first hint of what may have happened comes from when the Jedi first confronted the witches and Torben's body was overtaken by Anastasia. His eyes turned black and he no longer had control of his body. That same change was shown to overtake May in one of Osha's flashbacks. While we only see Anastasia display this ability, I think it's safe to assume that all of the witches have the ability to do this, so somebody within the coven had to have taken over Osha's body for her eyes to turn that color. That leaves us with only 2 viable options, Anastasia and Coral. A classic battle of nature versus nurture. Throughout this episode, we see Coral being the more aggressive of the mothers. She chastises Anastasia for not being more assertive and disciplined with the twins, which leads to her using more physical discipline to teach the twins a lesson about being prepared during their training session. We also witness several moments where Coral outwardly disagrees with the path forward set out by Anastasia. She believes that they shouldn't have allowed the twins to be tested by the Jedi, and was even more so against the idea of actually allowing Osha to leave and join the Jedi. When we eventually see the bodies of the coven stacked in a pile, there is one person noticeably missing, Coral. So this is what I believe happened. Coral's resentment had been building up for a while due to the difference in parental styles of the twins' 2 mothers, until the idea of Osha leaving to join the Jedi pushed Coral over the edge. When May came in to confront Osha, it was Coral that took her away, and this is the moment that Coral seized to take over her body and caused her sudden personality shift. Coral embraced her hatred of the Jedi and passed that along to May, planting the idea of killing Osha rather than allowing her to join the Jedi. May takes this idea and starts the fire that we see. However, that is all she does. The fire doesn't spread to cause the explosion in the energy room, and definitely isn't the cause of all the coven's death. Instead, it was Coral who snuck into the energy room to cause the explosions, deciding to wipe the slate clean, as she saw her coven becoming too soft and sympathetic towards what she believed were the evil Jedi. Once this occurred, the Jedi either rushed in to help, or were already on their way to collect Osha when the rest of the coven attacked. They'd be on edge due to the damage to their home, and see the Jedi walk in during such a devastating attack would have caused the coven to see red. They have no time to think, no time to discern what is truthful or not, so they attack the Jedi, blaming them for the destruction. The Jedi fight back and strike down the coven with their sabers, an act that May witnesses and will later reference in her fight against Master Indara when she says,
"A Jedi doesn't pull her weapon unless prepared to kill."
I think it was Indara and Torben that led this attack, a Padawan being misguided by his master. This is why Torben takes his vow, and why he's so remorseful after being misled by the woman he trusted. It is why we will later see Master Kelnaka fighting Torben, and why he will later leave the Order. Once he learns the truth of that night, Kelnaka cannot, in good faith, continue to be a Jedi. I also do not think that Sol participated in any killing, as he was busy saving Osha. He is oblivious to a fault about the true actions of that night. This would explain him placing the blame on May when talking to Osha. While May is not entirely incorrect in the placement of her hatred, she is not correct either. She has just seen a small scene of the entirety of what happened that night, which has resulted in her misguided hatred towards the Jedi. In the current timeline, Coral acts as our secret Sith Lord. She works in the shadows to finally rid the galaxy of what she is deemed to be the reason she lost her coven, and one of the daughters she worked so hard to bring into this world. May's service to her is still rooted in the misguided scene of what happened that day, a scene that was perfectly constructed by Coral, but all credit cannot be given to her. There is still another secret force behind all this. As with the Sith, there are always 2. There must be another Sith at play, one that helped create life out of the Force.
Did you ever hear the tragedy of Darth Plagueis the Wise?
Working from the shadows to move the pieces exactly as he needed them, force that will later pass his teachings onto Darth Sidious and lead to the rise of Darth Vader.